All right, here we are. Shaun Robinson.
Tony POTTS.
How are you doing? You look great.
Fantastic. Thank you. I miss seeing you, miss being on the desk with you every single day.
I know. I miss doing the whole big old show and all that crazy Hollywood stuff. By the way, you look lovely, all dressed up, probably with nowhere to go.
Well,
Right.
well, you know what? I'm telling you, it's my big outing these days is going to the grocery store and going to the post office. You know, everybody, we're anxious to get outside, but you know what? I agree with the stay-at-home order, and we've got to be as safe as possible and understand that when we stay at home, we're helping other people stay well.
Well, and also, I don't have a problem with wearing a mask. You know,
not at all.
Like LA County, they're saying, look, if you're going to wear a mask, if you go out, just wear a mask, because what that really does is that actually says you give a crap about other people too.
Exactly. It's not so much you're trying to keep yourself safe, which we are, but it's the respect you have for other people and their families. We know by now that this virus can be transmitted so easily. So wear a mask. You know, when you're out, wear a mask. In your house, do whatever you want. But when you're around other people, just respect them.
I think if I end up going to like a Lakers game or something in the future, I'm just going to wear a bubble wrap, man, or get a PPE or something.
Hazmat suit, something.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
As long as I can see, right?
Exactly.
So how have you been dealing with it? Pretty well, though? You look good. You look happy?
Well, thank you. You know, I've been doing a ton of Zoom calls with my mom and my girlfriends. My mom is in Detroit.
I love you, Mom.
So thank you. She loves you too. She just don't know the real you.
Well, clearly you've been bluffing her for about 35 years.
Yeah, 35. Yeah, we'll take 35. Yeah, so I've been checking on her. She's got somebody to bring her food and to make sure, she's safe. And I wanted to fly up to visit her so badly, but, I just don't want to take that risk on her part. So, we've been doing these Zoom calls, been doing a ton with, cousins of mine and girlfriends. And so we're just trying to keep everybody motivated. I tell you, a lot of people that I've talked to, my friends, have just been, talking about this feeling of loneliness and isolation that has really gotten to them mentally. So we're so used to being able to see people and hug people and, touch folks and have that one-on-one social interaction. And just so many people have just been talking about, how it's been affecting their mental state and this kind of like feeling of depression that they have sometimes. So we try to keep each other up.
I think it also shows that, this isn't the end all connection-wise. We still need interaction with humans one-to-one.
We do.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my mom, she's pushing, she'll be 80 this year, born in 1940.
Bless her heart. She's so sweet.
Yeah, she's tough, but she's doing well. I mean, she goes out, she's up by Seattle. So she goes out, she goes out to the senior hour at the local grocery store. 7 to 9 a.m. And she's a little feisty because she's got her gloves and her, mask, everything on.
Good.
She's wrapped up, and then she kept telling me that. I said, how to go, with the senior hour? She goes, the women are great, but the men are horrible. I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, oh, they just lollygag around. They just, they don't know what they're doing, what direction, and they get too close to you. I keep telling them to back off. And I'm like,
they're probably trying to hit on her.
Well,
they're like that beautiful mom. They're like, there's a beautiful senior lady. Let me go and talk to her.
Yeah, she's like, I'm not gonna be so good looking if I got COVID-19.
All right, get away, stay away.
Yeah.
But so she's doing good. Your mom, how's she been dealing with it?
Yeah, she's been pretty good. She is a little petrified. She told me, she said, listen, I know if I get it, I'm a goner. She's healthy and she's good. This is, by the way, I think you know this, but this is a woman who, for, I don't know, about 40 some years, smoked cigarettes, without filters, the blackest, darkest coffee you could ever see and smell, and ate Fritos for breakfast for like 40 straight years. And she outlived my dad. So whatever is going on in here, coronavirus is not going to attack it because it's who knows what's going on inside of there. But she's doing pretty good. My sister drops by. My sister will drop by like once or twice a week on the porch. They'll exchange. My mom continues to cook for like 40 people. So even though there's just one, so she will put it out, on the front porch. and then they'll, talk through the screen door with their masks on from, about 10 feet away. But other than that, she's doing well,
Good. Good. I think the older generation, they've seen so much during their lives that they're just like, listen, we've lived a good life, and we're not going to get all rattled and freaked out about anything. We're going to take common sense precautions. But, like my mom, I'm the one that's like, word, are you okay? She's a baby. I'm praying and I'm staying safe. I'm doing what I can. I'm going to leave the rest up to God. That's what her philosophy is. But I think they're the calming ones, I think, right now.
Well, and also thank God for technology, right? So we can FaceTime them, or I don't know if your mom has done Zoom, but getting my mom on Zoom was something of, it's one of those things where I remember one time I was trying to show my mom something in person on the computer, and my daughter was there, and Bella, she was, I think, probably 10 at the time, and she knew how to do it. I'm trying to tell my mom's getting frustrated with me, this and that, and then Bella comes over and tells her the exact same thing. She's like, oh, you're such a sweet child. So trying to get my mom on Zoom was brutal, but finally I got her on Zoom, but she does FaceTime. So I think that really helps, not only, the older folks and our parents and what have you, but even us. I mean, I love seeing your face. I mean, it's just nice to be able to, not that I don't like my wife or my daughter or my dogs, but like I've seen them every day, it's like enough.
And your wife, Shelly, is absolutely gorgeous. So I'm sure you love to lay eyes on her every moment of the day.
I know, but sometimes, I'm sure she gets tired of me too, in a way it's fun, but it's a way like, we're really learning how to kind of divide our time, and she's got her space to make her business calls. I've got my space to do that. So yeah, it's interesting. But I think, technology, I'm curious on how, like if we were doing Access Hollywood in the old school ways that we used to do it, right? In the fun, out of control days, how would this change us now going back? Like would the satellite trucks that we had, sending video from the Cannes Film Festival, would we now just be doing it on a computer? Would we just be doing the interview? I mean, it's interesting how technology was changing everything for us.
Yeah, it sure is. You and I started at Access Hollywood the same year, 1999, before social media, before Twitter, before Facebook, before Instagram, before YouTube, all of those things. I mean, think about that.
Yeah.
So when we used to go, and both of us come from news backgrounds, so we're used to, the satellite trucks, having to set up at a particular place if we're doing our stand-ups. We've got the lighting, we've got all of these different people around to make sure we all put forth the best product as possible. And I remember when we first started getting the little Blackberries. Remember the Blackberries? They would send us our stand-ups, the stand-up copy on the Blackberries. We're like, okay, like this. How do we do this? And that was like one of the first like shifts in technology that I remember in terms of the advancement of technology, how we did our jobs. And then there were times when, we would never do interviews via, Skype. Well, Skype didn't exist by then, but everything had to have the perfect lighting and perfect setup, everything. And then even that type of technology started to change, because remember, and we've had this conversation so many times about how, when TMZ came on the scene, and they had, they were, say what you want, but they were very innovative about how they did their programming. They sent somebody out with a camera. They stood outside of a building or club, waited for somebody to come out, and then they had that content. And so we saw the shift in technology when that happened. Yeah. Wouldn't you say? Because now the video that you were seeing on entertainment shows was a lot different than what we were used to doing.
No, I agree. And I think also about that time, MySpace came out, and then that kind of went away, but then you had YouTube coming into the fore, and Facebook. So then now most people are getting used to seeing really bad videos, or at least quality videos, right? We're watching them on YouTube and what have you. So it kind of pushed the window of what was acceptable to a certain extent. And after a while, of course, people get tired of watching really bad looking cat videos, and then, so they do appreciate having some sort of professional quality. to them. But then the cameras, you know, I mean, you look at, you know, what the iPhone has done, and also with Samsung and the Galaxy. I mean, we can shoot movies now on iPhones, right? And the quality is there. It's so incredible. But yeah, it's been it's interesting. Until, you know, it was when you were talking about 1999, I was thinking back. I was like, yeah, we were all worried about Y2K, and that was nothing. It was like
right. I remember you right at the turn of the century, when at the end of 1999, everybody was so scared about going into 2000. Okay, we thought something was going to happen. The computers were going to blow up, and I remember that. And I had to go to Vegas my assignment was to go to Vegas. And what did I do? I'm trying to think. Was it I can't remember what concert it was. I think it could have been Cher, or I can't remember. But anyway, I was covering the New Year's Eve, and everybody was a little bit nervous about what was going to happen when the clock struck 12, and then nothing happened. Nothing happened. It was just
much ado about nothing. Much ado about nothing. I was in Vegas for a New Year's Eve. I was doing the West Coast. I was the West Coast dude for the NBC Carson Daly New Year's Eve thing, and they had me down at on Fremont Street. And I think I was with, I can't remember. We've done so much. I think I was with Tommy Lee. Oh God, that's right. I was with Tommy Lee.
Oh my Lord, that must have been something to remember.
Yeah, for Motley Crue and a couple other crazy bastards like that. And but we did it early, right? Because we did it for the East Coast. So I was literally done by 9:30 West Coast time in Vegas. And they really they weren't going to have us really wait around for Vegas for some reason at midnight, because I guess the East Coast would be 3 a.m. But I can remember I went, and Tommy said, "Hey, we're gonna have a party. Come, I'm like,
partied with Tommy Lee?
Oh yeah. And do you remember I went on tour with them for a couple of stops back in the and I was like, I got to get off this tour because I'm just. And by the way, the great thing. This is why so many people love Tommy Lee. Is that in one sense he's like a big kid. He's actually really sweet and really nice. I can't speak to the chemicals that go in and what that does to him and stuff. But every time I've been around him, he's been super nice, super cool, super curious about everything.
Yeah.
I said, Tommy, if I come, I can only come. I knew I only come for an hour.
Right.
Oh, come on, it'll be great. We're doing this. And so I did go, and I do remember sitting on the tarmac. I was supposed to get an 11:45 flight back and to LA. And I remember sitting on the tarmac, we were late. And so the pilot goes, now when we take off, he goes, we're gonna make a right-hand turn. For those of you on the right-hand side of the plane, you'll be able to, he goes, we're gonna do it right at like 11:58, 59 or something. We're gonna go to taxi and then we're gonna hit it. So he actually, I think he might've delayed it on purpose, but we took off and we went to the right, and I looked down, and they light the fireworks off the top of the hotels all down the strip. And it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. We're banking, and I look, and I'm like, oh, I couldn't hear anything. So it was like I was watching fireworks with no sound. But yeah, that was my Vegas. That
was your Vegas experience, huh?
Yeah, well, the New Year's Eve. I've only been there once for New Year's Eve. I have really no desire to go there for New Year's Eve.
It's a lot. It was like we looked outside. I remember it looked like the sidewalk was moving because there were so many. Obviously that's a lot different than what Vegas looks like right now.
Have you seen some of those shots? Have you seen some of those shots of the Strip and like in front of the Cosmopolitan and Bellagio?
No.
Nothing.
Nothing at all. Very sad. I mean, unfortunately, yeah. When you think about just all the people that have lost jobs, not only there but all around the world.
Yeah.
How are we going to move forward from this place, and all those experiences that depend on a lot of people being around you, what are they going to look like in the future?
Well, and also, does this increase jobs or decrease jobs? Because think about Vegas just for a minute, right? They're going to reopen. I think the Wynn's going to open up first, and maybe Treasure Island and Caesar's Palace, but they're going to do it really, really slowly. But will they now need to employ more people because you're gonna have to sanitize everything all the time. So if somebody's, on a machine, right, ding, 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 doing their, slot machine stuff, when that person leaves, I'm imagining somebody's gonna have to come and spray that down right away. So that may end up having more people, be hired once we get back, if we get back to full capacity, right? So
I don't like, I even think about the gym. I haven't been to the gym. I have a membership to a gym. I just signed up for these training sessions. And so I was doing that when, the gym's closed. But I think about, first of all, the gym is a petri dish on a normal day, So how are we, and I remember I was like one of the only people in the gym wearing latex gloves.
That sounds like you.
Yeah. And people were kind of looking at me like, well, she has leg gloves. But I was like, oh, everything's kind of like, weird right now.
Sketchy.
So when we come back, I can't imagine. First of all, the gym is already crowded. You would have to have somebody standing behind each person on the piece of equipment and wiping it down in order to get every piece of equipment. That then would double or almost double the number of people that you have in the gym. And you don't want that many people in the gym,
Nope.
So listen, part of this is our responsibility, all right? Wear the gloves, wear the masks, don't touch your face, okay? Don't get too close to people. And so that takes, if we depend on everybody else to make sure everything's like super sanitized every single place we go, it's not going to work.
Exactly.
It's just not going to work. So we have to take it upon ourselves to be part of the solution. And so, I'm sorry, but all these people walking around saying, I don't need a mask, it's not for you. It's to protect other people. It's plain and simple.
Yep.
So I hope that when those gyms start opening, I hope that my gym will have the policy of, I know it's going to be uncomfortable, but you have to wear a mask and you have to wear some gloves in the meantime, while we try to figure out what that new normal is going to look like.
Well, and also if they have to staff it with more people, then your fees are going to go up. It's going to go up. Like for me in Vegas, I think it'll be interesting. Most hotels are pretty airy. They have a lot of room. And I think they could probably cordon off certain areas initially. But then again, if you're only allowing in 50% of what you can normally do, then the revenue's cut in half. Then how do you pay for all of this? And room rates, because room rates in Vegas are relatively cheap compared to other places in the world because they want to get you there, right? I mean, you can get a great suite, at the Bellagio or Mandalay Bay or Venetian for $200 a night. I mean, it's insane, right? So I wonder how that's all going to work. But I do think about the people who've lost their, 200 and some thousand, I think, in Vegas lost their jobs because they're hotel workers and what have you. So it's a long-term trickle-down economic impact. But I can't wait till it comes back. I mean, I'll go back and support Vegas. I'll go back.
Sure.
I'll go back. We go to the south of France and Spain and Italy in the summers. As soon as I can go back, I'll get on a plane. But then again, I think, listen, the FAA, I think, should not leave it upon the pressure upon the flight attendants to implement, you have to wear a mask. The FAA should say, listen, you're going to get on a damn plane, you got to have a mask.
Yeah, period.
You got to wear it while you're on the plane. And
Right.
the only time you don't wear it is if you're eating food.
Right.
Other than that, you got to wear your mask. I mean,
You got to wear a mask.
is that too much to ask?
Right. All of these people who are saying, it infringes on their constitutional rights. Listen, I tell you what is not in the Constitution, you giving me COVID-19. Okay. So, we all need to be respectful of other people. If you don't know by now that this is a disease, this is a virus that can be transmitted very, very easily, then I don't know what you've been listening to. But that's what we have to do. We have to protect our neighbor, our friends, our family members. That's what our responsibility is.
I think this will make us really miss how it was. You and I have been speaking of Vegas. You and I shot a number of shows in Vegas.
Yeah, we sure did. Oh, it's fun.
I mean, I look back at that now, I'm like, oh, I mean, I look back at it before this as like, oh, it was a fun time. Now I look back and go, oh, that's amazing. But it was awesome. It'll never happen again. I don't think in that way, right? We had a pretty big crew around us. We probably had 15, 20 people, you know, part of the team. We're all shooting stuff. And I remember shooting in front of the Bellagio, which was great. And they were doing the fountains whenever we wanted and all that.
I know. You know, yeah, I can honestly say, Tony, that we started at Access Hollywood during the heyday of entertainment news. You know, I believe that, you know, it definitely was a time when you can get, you know, access to A-list stars in a way that you don't really have the same type of access to them. Like, you know, stars would invite us into that. We would do, remember on the weekend show, we do At Home with the Stars. They would invite us into our house. Here's my bedroom. Here's my kitchen. Here's my, you know, like, and that was common. That was really common because back then, once again, it was before social media.
Trust.
In a way that the celebrity was going to get the word out about their new movie, or, you know, they had to come through the entertainment shows. And there was only, back then, you know, just a handful. But now celebrities can take control of what they put out there in the press, what they put out there to their fans and to their audience, which is great for them because they can, once again, control the messaging in a way that is more comfortable for them. So entertainment news is a lot different today. And we didn't have, obviously reality shows we never reported on. I don't think we ever, when do you reporting on reality shows? No,
we did. Because remember, I was the only television reporter to go to the very first Survivor before That's
right. Yes, that's right. You were going to Survivor.
Yeah.
Right.
I went, so I remember Mark Bracco, who ended up doing quite well at ABC, and I think Dick Clark Productions, whatever. He was a producer at Access.
Yes,
he was good at seeing things.
I had lunch with Mark Bracco not too long ago.
Yeah?
Yes.
Nice. So anyways, he comes up and is like, hey, Tony, there's this new show. They're shooting it in the South China Sea. He said, it's supposed to be this new kind of reality show where they're all on an island and they're trying to survive. And he goes, you want to go? And I'm like, yeah, I'm in. And he's like, well, you have to get a number of shots. And I said, where exactly is it? And he said, it's in Borneo, off this little, this capital city called Kota Kinabalu. And he goes, but it's not in the city. He goes, you have to go out to like an island that's very remote. And I said, well, what's the island like? He goes, I don't know. He goes, but apparently humans have never really been on that island. I'm like, okay.
Humans never been on the island, right?
Yeah, so they never inhabited it. So yeah, so that's what I remember. And I remember getting there. I remember all along the way, like each airport got worse. Like I flew LA, I think, to Kuala Lumpur, beautiful airport, incredible airport, glass and steel. I was, oh my God. And from there we flew somewhere else, and it got a little worse. And then we get to Kuala Lumpur, or no, we get to Kota Kinabalu, and I look down, we're about to land, I'm looking down, I'm thinking, wow, okay, there's no on-ramp, there's no nothing. So I remember we go in, and never forget, it was, get in the jetway, it's hot, it's like just steaming hot, and like 1,000 degrees humidity, 1,000 degrees, and I'm like, holy moly, but I'm thinking, once I get into the terminal, there'll be some air conditioning, right? So I'm walking the jetway, and I never forget, I turn to the right, and I look, and there's the hallway for the terminal, and it's hot as blazes, and there's one air conditioning, it's in the wall, and there's this mom there, like this, she's, from there, she's just like this, and she's taking it, and that's the only thing. So then I'm like, where do we go to get our bags? And I looked, and they told us to pack our not suitcases, pack these big red kind of tarpish, rubberish things that were probably about this long and kind of a barrel shape, because it's humidity, stuff's gonna get in, you have to ziplock everything. So we get there, and we go down these steps that are broken, and it's almost like a basement. I look, and there's the things going around, there's nothing, right? And it's myself and Anthony Bielenson, the producer. And we're looking, there's nothing. And I'm like, and then everybody's gone. We're like, what? Then I look up, And there's in this little like cutout up in the wall, there's these eyes looking out and kind of looking at us, and I can see them going like this and whatever, and I'm like, so I'm like, hey, so I yell, hey, where's my bag? And all of a sudden you just see, they throw two of them out and on the ground. And I'm like, what? Oh, and so they would have taken our bags, and then we get out to try to take a taxi, and we can see the hotel. We can literally see it, and the guy wants to. The currency is ringgit. It was like 4 ringgit to the dollar at the time, and he wanted to charge us like 500 and some ringgit, which is like $140 or $135, something like that, just to go across. And so then there's a big fracas. I'm like, you're trying to rip us off, and then the police came. And I'm like, within the first 10 minutes, it was a disaster.
This needs to be a reality show, because I feel like I'm on Survivor just listening to it. That's crazy.
But it was kind of cool to see. I remember watching the first thing that Mark Burnett shot, and I remember seeing, and you and I have been around a lot. I remember seeing like they're shooting this challenge, these ropes in the jungle, and he's shooting it in a way where you never saw a camera. I'm like, wow, this is brilliant. I mean, he's shooting all the angles, and I remember being in the middle of the South China Sea. It's 2:00. I'm in a boat with Mark, a really small boat. He's on the walkie-talkie, and I remember him saying, listen, if this challenge doesn't go off at 2:30, you're all fired. I'm telling you, it's got to go off at 2:30. You're all fired. And I had known him at the time to be really super nice, tough, but nice. And he gets up and goes, I'm sorry about that. I'm like, what? He goes, here's the thing. He goes, I had dinner with James Cameron before I did this. And I mapped everything out. And I asked James Cameron for one piece of advice. And James Cameron told me, he said, never get behind. Never get behind in shooting, especially on a show like this. He goes, one day you get behind 1 hour, it's going to get out of your control. So he goes, so I've just been on everybody to get, because remember it was every 3 days, and there was a tribal council. So you had 39 days. You had to shoot, like, no matter what, you had to get this stuff done. So,
right.
So anyway, that's how I remember 2000, whenever it was. And then American Idol started, because Survivor was a bit nasty. American Idol came along. It was kind of nasty with Simon, but a little bit better. And then you had these other, Husband Alaska shows and Bachelor. And,
but what year did Survivor start?
I think it was 2000. I think it was
2000. Really?
I think so. Yeah, I think it was 2000. They were all right around that time.
Oh well, wait. Didn't they have though? Wasn't it when Survivor first started? Wasn't it like celebrities or something like that?
Oh God, no. They would never.
Didn't they have the celebrity edition or something?
No, they had the previous champions edition years later, but no, early on, no celebrity's going to go do that. It was the first ever. Yeah, they're not going to do it. They got a bunch of yahoozers from all around, Yeah.
They were yahoozers, but
no, I mean they know
Richard Hatch.
Yes.
There was who else from that crew?
Richard Hatch was the one. He made big noise because he was naked. Remember?
That's right.
I remember.
That's like forever ago.
Yeah, I'm on. Let's see. It's on its 20th anniversary. First episode air date May 31st, 2000.
Look at you! Yes.
Told you. See?
Yeah.
I still have a brain. I remember how Mark sold that. You know the famous story how Mark sold that? He tried to sell it to everybody real quick. He ended up, how like when you go to a street fair or a country fair, you can go and you can get your face put on like Newsweek magazine and Time magazine and Rolling Stone. So he went, Les Moonves wouldn't buy into it. So he went and created with some people in like survival outfits, a couple people, friends, and then had them go to a thing and shoot it as a Newsweek and Time magazine. He had those covers and he went into Les and he said, listen, if you do this show within a year, these guys will be on the front of Time magazine, just like this. And they're like, okay. So he did it. And then Mark got 50% of all ad revenue on that as well.
Wow.
So he made, remember they had 53 million people watched the finale. 53 million. That's crazy.
In the finale in 2000.
Yeah, 2000. Yep.
Wow. Yeah. Nobody gets numbers like that anymore. No. My gosh.
No.
Like
and they actually, I think Mark got 50% of the ad revenue on remember they did the after show thing? It was so popular. That's how they came up with the after show thing, the live, whatever it was, live reunion.
Yes. Yes.
Look, we have so much demand. Let's just create a BS extra episode. So Mark and you know, that revenue must have been through the roof. So I do know that shortly after that, he moved from one house to another house, and the other house was on the beach.
Right. Well, yeah, right. And when I was talking about, you know, how we covered reality, it was we were covering shows back then, but we weren't covering reality stars back then. We would cover shows, especially, you know, the shows that are on the big networks, the big three, and also Fox. But it wasn't the sense of being a reality star and following those people in their lives. We weren't doing that until much later on.
No, yeah, that was mainly what we would do. You're right, is we would just do like, so Richard won. So then we would, you know, we'd feature him because obviously he's the winner and wins $1 million or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, that's true. And then it just got crazier. Didn't you have the housewife shows and then all that kind of stuff? It just kept
right.
going.
It's a lot different.
And The Bachelor would go on after all this time, which.
Yeah, Bachelor and then The Bachelorette. Yeah, it's and everything is. You wonder, because we get a glimpse, we get a peek at what goes on behind the scenes.
Oh yeah.
Of reality shows and what's real and what's not so real, and we don't want to give away like any secrets, you know.
Well, I think people know.
They probably do.
Yeah.
By now, they probably do.
I mean, you know, most of the thing about like the housewife shows and all this stuff that I think everybody knows is that, you know, you just can't shoot randomly. You'd be shooting.
No,
you'd be shooting forever, and then you'd have way too much stuff. And you try to you set up situations. You know, hey, we're all going to go to Mexico for the weekend.
Yeah. Or, we're going to go to Mexico with people we don't like, and so yes, okay.
And we're also going to go to a tequila distillery while we're in Mexico, and to see if you can all have samples and drink a little bit, and see if that might motivate some people to be a little, you know.
Right. Yeah. You know, I host. Speaking of reality shows, I host the reunion show for TLC's 90-Day Fiance,
which is huge. It's huge.
It's absolutely insane. I've done shows for TLC a number of times before 90-Day Fiance. And so a few years ago, they came to me and they said, hey, we would really love for you to do this reunion show. And I said, oh, you know, I haven't, let me send me some clips because I haven't seen it. So they sent me these clips and I was like, okay, I'd probably just be a one-off. I don't know. It probably won't do that well after this season. Probably be done. I've done now, I think, about 15 shows.
Wow.
Yeah, about 15 of them. And they have, I think, at least 6 spin-off shows.
Really?
Yeah, it's like 90-Day Fiance all the time. Yes. It's 90 Day. That's the original one. And so the premise of the show, if you haven't seen it, you're one of the very few that hasn't. And it has an international audience. I will get DMs from people in Australia, you know, in Nigeria. Now, I will get DMs from people literally all over the world. Or, you know, this one time I was parking my car and the valet said, oh, my cousin's in Morocco, love 90-Day Fiance. It is absolutely crazy. So the premise of the show is, let's say if you go to, you know, Russia and you meet the love of your life and you want to get married, you can apply for what's called a K-1 visa. This is the law.
Right.
And you have to pay for the visa. It's not cheap. So once you get approved, and you can bring your loved one over here to the States, but once they step foot in the States, you have 90 days in which you have to get married, okay? Or else they have to go back to their country. And so you can imagine the natural conflict that comes from that, you know, getting used to a new country, leaving your relatives behind in your old, you know, country, getting your the friends and the family members thinking your loved one is just here for a green card. I mean, there's so much that goes on. Yeah. And because these couples have to get married quickly, a lot of them don't really have the time to work out the kinks in the relationship. So so now we have so we have 90 Day. We have before the 90 days in which they follow. A lot of these people have had just video relationships, you know, through Zoom or through whatever. some of them are on international dating sites, and they've only corresponded via computer. So we have before the 90 days where the American goes overseas to meet their boyfriend or girlfriend or their loved one for the very first time. Okay. Then we have happily ever after. That's after they get married. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have the tell-all show that I host. We have and I host that for all of the shows. We have The Other Way, where the American goes overseas to live instead of the foreigner coming over here. So we have The Other Way. We have Chantel and Pedro. They were a young couple. She's from Atlanta. He's from the Dominican Republic. Wild family. And so we have their show. We have Pillow Talk, where couples from former shows will sit in a bed together and comment on the show. They will give their commentary about what's going on. So we have the Pillow Talk. There's another one. We just had 90-day quarantine, where the couples were quarantining while everybody's on lockdown. So that's like 9 shows right now. So wow. It's 90-day fiance all day, and all of the shows. I know our show, the Tell All, we consistently get about 3.5 million people tuning in, which is this is cable. That is incredible. Those are good even network numbers for some shows.
Absolutely.
Right? But 3.5 million people, and the audience is so diverse. I have people, young, old, black, white, men, women. Everybody seems to love the show. So I had no idea. I was on Access Hollywood for 16 years, and people will come up to me and they'll go, you look familiar. And I'll say, Access Hollywood. They go, no, that ain't it. 90 Day Fiance. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
That's funny. That happens to me with, I did Good Day New York back in the 90s. It was a big show. It was #1. It beat, the Today Show, beat everybody. And I was on there just 2.5 years, right? Yeah. And, and I'd be in New York on Access, right? 8 years on Access, say 2007 or whatever. I'd be shooting something for Access at Rockefeller Center, out by the plaza, doing some leads and tags for whatever. And, people always gather around and say, hi, how are you, all stuff. And inevitably, somebody would say to me, oh, yeah, Tony, right? Yeah, you're on Fox 5, Good Day New York, right? And I'm like, yeah, that was 14 years ago. Right. But the nice thing about New Yorkers was once you go into their homes, especially in the morning, they just feel like they kind of want you're one of them, and they're one of you. And so I would, I'd come across them sometimes, and they'd be like, I like you on Access, but I miss you on the Good Day. That was really nice, and they're just super sweet. Hey, can I buy a cup of coffee or whatever? And that's the part of New York that I kind of miss, in the sense of that, back and forth and all that fun. So, but you and I have been very fortunate. We were in the heyday of the entertainment shows, making money hand over fist. They were making a ton of money. We got to do some incredible things. That whole Anna Nicole Smith thing for me was a crazy ride through.
Yeah, that was, you were the Anna Nicole Smith guy during that time. That was so crazy. You were flying, where were you flying to? The Bahamas?
Yeah, Bahamas, and then and then Hollywood, Florida, because that's where she passed away at the what was the Hard Rock Hotel. She passed away there. But yeah, I was in the Bahamas forever, and I can remember getting phone calls at 3 o'clock in the morning to my hotel room. Hey, I've got some information. Meet me with $50,000 behind the Starbucks.
Stop it.
At 5 in the morning. I'm like, first off, no.
First off, no. Okay.
How did you know? How did you know my room? And what you find about the Bahamas is something I love, but also makes me nervous. Is that there are generations of human beings and families that have been there, and they just know everybody. And the island runs. There are 2 levels to the island. The level that we all kind of see. Then there's a whole other level that really runs the island. And so I was able to make friends with a couple of families that, big families there and legitimate and all that stuff. But they would always warn me, like, wait for the call in the morning. And I'm like, what? And then
What kind of information were they offering for $50,000?
so they had told me that Anna Nicole Smith's son, who passed away when he came to visit her in the Bahamas after she had Danny Lynn, they were telling me that he was not in the ground. Because the whole thing is she wanted to be buried next to him. And they called and said, listen, he's not even in the ground. He's not even buried. That's that plot of where he is. He's not in the ground there.
Wow.
I'm like, what? But turns out they were right. Because I ended up running, this is crazy, ran into a woman on a flight who was a jeweler, but also a lawyer, whose sister knew somebody who worked at the hospital, who then, there's it's called the Blue Room, where they keep deceased bodies pretty much like almost frozen, because if they put them in the ground temperature is pretty warm. And if there's a potential case to see why this person passed away, was there foul play, they will put the body in there and freeze it. So in essence, they were right. And they did have to go back and, go into his stomach and do all the stuff again about how much, he ingested of the morphine or whatever it was that killed him. It was, all I remember was like 22 times the normal limit that anybody, even their an addict, would take, which made no sense that he would ever do that. And he had been clean for a while. And within 16 hours of arriving, he's dead. It's like, oh.
Wow.
So yeah, that was $50,000 for that. There was 1.4 million for photos of the baby. And I still have those photos to this day of Larry for the first time ever meeting Danny Lynn. And I promised I would never sell those. I told him, and I got at it was 1 million initially, then it went to 1.2, then it went to 1.4. I was offered for those. Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Stuff. Yeah.
That is absolutely crazy. It reminds me of the time when Whitney Houston passed away. I had the last one-on-one interview.
That's right.
I interviewed her actually in my hometown of Detroit. She was filming Sparkle, and it was at the Fox Theater, historic Fox Theater. And my mom and dad came with me. And I remember Whitney was, she was so sweet. She was like, oh, your father's real handsome. And
he's a handsome man.
Yeah. So, and I interviewed her, and I just remember her feeling just so optimistic about the future.
Yeah.
She overcome so many struggles in her life, and she was, moving forward and so excited about the movie. And then, I think it was like 13 weeks later, passed away at the Beverly Hilton Hotel. And I remember being at the Clive Davis party that night. Just all the chaos around that evening. I remember Clive Davis coming on stage, because that was his friend, that was his friend. She was supposed to be at the party that night, and the solemnness in the room when he came on stage, and he just talked about how, just devastated, because it was only literally a few hours before that she had passed away. So everybody's still in shock.
When people went and arrived, did they already know? Had word gotten out?
Yes, by then people already knew. The majority of people had already known.
And didn't Clive discover her?
Pardon me?
Did Clive discover her? Or
you mean her career?
Yeah, Clive Davis.
Clive was, and I can't remember if Clive actually discovered her, but he was the one that was instrumental in her career. From the very early days. They had known each other. She was, I don't know how old she was, very young. And so they had this, just really lifelong friendship. And she had credited a lot of her career, to Clive. And so she, it was devastating. It was like literally so devastating. She, oh God, I still remember that time. And it was, I remember, Tony, one thing that her death, and I remember doing interviews like back to back, and, interviewing on the Today Show, and just, so many hits that I did. But I will never forget, there's something that stood with me, that has stuck with me to this present day. Here it is. Whitney's one of the biggest stars in the world. Mm-hmm. And she, first story on the news every single day. And I remember being at home it was the fourth day after her passing. So I think it was like, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, maybe it was either Tuesday or Wednesday. Maybe it was Wednesday. And I was watching the news, and her death, the local news, was the third story on the newscast. Okay. And, every other day it was the first story, because there was an investigation about what happened. And I go, wow, you could be the biggest star in the world and you get 4 days. You get 4 days, and then folks have gone on about their business. The world just keeps going. And that stuck with me because it reminds me constantly of, we just got to keep living no matter what, no matter what happens, because the world is going to keep on moving. The world's going to keep on going, and so, don't get stuck in, whatever it is that, sometimes keeps us stuck, because everybody else is, it's still moving. So do what makes you happy, live life to the very fullest. Because, you like to think that, if you're taken out of here, everybody's mourning, everybody's going to be mourning forever, but no, it's not like, it's like, it's folks, if they keep moving.
There's a couple things you reminded me of. It's the story you told, and of being a Wednesday and number 3 in the rundown, is I was doing a live hit when Michael Jackson passed away with Keith Olbermann on MSNBC. He had a pretty big 8 o'clock show back in the day. And that whole day was, pretty bananas. And I remember we're both watching a live shot. So he was interviewing me in LA, he was in New York. And there was a live shot of following just a plain white van that people thought Michael Jackson's body was in, the coroner's van. And I remember it pulled up, and then they opened the doors, and then they wheeled out Michael Jackson's, body under, a white sheet. And I thought, man, no matter what you do, he's entertained tens of hundreds of millions around the world. You end up in a white van on a gurney under a white sheet when all is said and done. I said that to Keith, and he kind of paused, and it was just one of those moments, much in the same way you're talking about Whitney so eloquently, is that it just hits you like, wow, I gotta live, man. Like I just gotta go, and I gotta live. Hey, listen, so before we go, tell me about your foundation. I got about 7 minutes, 7%.
All right.
I love what you're doing.
Thank you very much. I've always had a passion for empowering young girls and women. And after I left Access Hollywood, after 16 years, it was time for me to kind of refocus and think about, what are the passion projects that I want to do? So I created the Shaun Foundation for Girls. And I wanted to do something big, didn't want to focus on one particular area, but I wanted to sort of cast the net wide and help girls in many different areas. So think of us as sort of like the United Way for underserved and underrepresented girls and young women. So what we do is we support these small, amazing nonprofits around the country that are doing work directly with girls. So for example, so Shaun stands for SHAUN, STEM, Health, Arts, Unity, and Neighborhood. So
I love that.
Yeah, thank you. Under the STEM division, we gave a grant to an organization called Tech Bridge Girls in Oakland, and they go into school districts where girls are underrepresented, underserved, and they teach girls about the STEM field. So they build robots, they make bath busies, they fix circuits, anything to get them interested in STEM. Yeah. Under the health division, we gave a grant to Healthy Girls Save the World. They are in Durham, North Carolina. And they go into these underserved school districts and teach girls about healthy lifestyle habits. So not only eating right and exercising, but setting boundaries in relationships and having a good attitude. Under the arts division, we gave 2 grants. One, I have the Shaun Foundation for Girls red carpet correspondent, a young lady named Stone. She started when she was 11. She's 14 now, but she goes into, she'll do red carpet interviews. She covered the Disney premiere of Ralph Breaks the Internet. And so it was a chance for her to get that experience that I had when I was on the red carpet. And we also gave a grant to a great, amazing organization called Girls Make Beats. And they teach girls about how to be sound engineers, music producers. They take them into the booth and they, mix their beats. And all of the girls have their little DJ names. And they're just so adorable. I just love them so much. Under the Unity division, we gave a grant to Girl Up, under the United Nations Foundation. And I sit on the board of Girl Up. And they've got these rock star girls here in the States. And they go to places like Malawi, Guatemala, and they advocate on behalf of gender equality for girls in these different countries around the world. So whether it's against genital mutilation, child marriage, lack of access to clean drinking water, whatever it is, to advocate on behalf of girls. And under the neighborhoods division, and we did something a little different. I had several grants from the Ford Fund under Ford Motor Company, and we did human trafficking awareness events around the country. And they teach girls about the methods that traffickers use to lure girls into the trafficking world. They are on college campuses. Traffickers are on college campuses. They're on middle school campuses. They recruit girls on Craigslist, at the mall. They do it everywhere. And it doesn't, these events that we've had, we had a young lady whose mother went to Yale, father went to Harvard, and she was lured into the sex industry. Okay. We have a young lady who went to Emory University and was lured into the sex industry because a guy approached her. You're so beautiful, you need to be a model. And he set up a few gigs for her. He had her fill out, the W-2 information. So she fills out all her information on the W-2. And then after a few months, he starts acting like he's a boyfriend and all this. So she's thinking this guy loves me and blah, blah, blah. And then one day it's like that. He turns on her and says, you're going to do this. You're going to have sex with this person. She says, no, I'm not. And he says, I've got all of your information. I know where your parents live. I know you filled out everything. You filled out your social security number. You filled out where your parents' address and everything. I will go here and kill your parents. Okay.
Holy
and
moly.
So she was, she felt that she had to do this. Finally, she broke free. But it's those kinds of stories. And I'm glad you brought this up because we are having a virtual human trafficking awareness event. The date is to be determined, but since we're in this COVID situation, a lot of that trafficking has been sent underground and more on the internet. So we're going to be telling girls about, why they need to stay forever vigilant because everybody's spending more time on the internet now. It is still happening. So that's what I'm doing.
Wow, that is fantastic. That is, I've been watching you do that all along and build it and build it and build it. I'm very proud of you. I'm very
Thank you very much.
All that you
Thank
do.
you.
All right, kiddo. Well, listen, I've got to continue my day, but it's so great to see you. I love you.
I love you too, my brother from another mother.
Sister from another mister. All right, sweetie. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Here we go. There we go.